I don't know who's going to believe me, but I swear on everything I love that what I'm about to write is true, or at least as true as my senses allowed me to understand it. I'm not posting this for attention. I'm posting because I can't carry this alone anymore. I'm 38 years old and I live with my wife in a small single-story house, nothing special. Just 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a bathroom we remodeled ourselves 2 summers ago. It's the kind of place where every creak in the floor has a name, where you always know which door is open and which is shut, and where silence is as familiar as an old pair of jeans. But that night changed everything. And even now, when I walk down the hallway, I feel the house breathing differently, like it remembers. My wife usually gets home around 7:30, sometimes later if her boss dumps last-minute changes on her. That evening felt completely normal. I had taken a shower, microwaved leftover pasta, and was watching a live sports show on the couch. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Without her, the air felt heavier. Around 9 p.m., a loud crash came from our bedroom. Not a soft thud, not a gentle slip of something falling. It was violent, like someone had yanked open the wardrobe and ripped something out. My whole body jolted. A chill shot down my spine because I knew, absolutely knew, that I was home alone. For a moment, I'd tried rationalizing it. Maybe I didn't close the window properly. Maybe a draft slammed something shut. But deep down, I knew it didn't sound like that. It sounded intentional, like someone was in there. I walked slowly down the hallway, each step quieter than the last. When I opened the bedroom door, the room was empty, completely empty. But my wife's coat, her favorite brown one, was on the floor in front of the wardrobe, spread out unnaturally, as if someone had pulled it down with force. The wardrobe doors were slightly open. I remembered closing them that morning. I know I did. The hinge creaks, and my wife always asks me not to leave them open. Now they were ajar, just enough to make my skin crawl. I picked up the coat, closed the doors, and went back to the living room, trying to convince myself I was overreacting. But that sense of being watched clung to me like static. About 10 minutes later, water started running in the bathroom, full force, not dripping, running, exactly like someone washing their hands or splashing their face. My heart pounded as I approached. When I opened the door, the faucet was off. No one was inside, but on the tiles were droplets of water, freshly fallen, still shimmering under the light. Someone had been there seconds before I walked in. I backed out slowly, pulse hammering in my ears, and then my phone rang. My wife's contact photo lit up the screen and relief flooded me until I heard her voice. It was quiet, shaky, like she was speaking from underwater. "Hey, don't worry, okay? I'm going to be late. Something came up with a new project. Just stay home." Her tone was wrong, faint, fading in and out. And in the background, I heard sounds, muffled crying, metal hitting metal. I couldn't tell. The call cut off. I tried calling back, but all I got was, "The number you have dialed is unreachable." Before I could even process it, I heard rummaging in the bedroom again, drawers sliding open, objects shifting. Adrenaline surged through me. I grabbed the baseball bat I keep by the couch and walked to the bedroom as quietly as I could. When I opened the door, the room was empty, but my wife's journal lay on the floor, open. The last entry read, "I'm waiting for you." And then my phone rang again. This time it wasn't her. A medical worker spoke, voice steady but urgent. "Sir, your wife was in a severe car accident an hour ago. She's in critical condition. You need to come to the hospital immediately." I felt the world tilt. "But she called me," I whispered. "She couldn't have," he said. "She hasn't regained consciousness since the accident." I don't remember driving to the hospital. I only remember feeling like someone was sitting beside me the entire ride, watching me. In the hospital, I saw her, pale, unconscious, hooked up to machines. Her phone, screen shattered, lay in a sealed evidence bag on the table. It was dead, completely dead. It couldn't have called anyone. She remained in a coma for 2 days. Then, just as suddenly, her eyes opened. When she stabilized, I asked her if she remembered anything. She hesitated and said, "I remember trying to get home. I kept trying. I felt like I needed to get to you, but everything was dark. And every time I got close, something pulled me away. But I think I made it. For a moment, I think I was with you." After she returned home, we pretended things were normal, but the house didn't forget. Doors opened on their own, water turned on, her coat fell from her hanger. Sometimes I woke up at night to the sound of her voice calling my name from the hallway, even though she was asleep beside me. I'm not claiming ghosts exist. I'm not claiming anything supernatural with certainty. But something happened that night that went beyond the physical world and connected us in a way neither of us can explain. The doctors say she was in a coma. The phone company says her phone was inactive. But the house says something entirely different. And I'm left with one thought. The people closest to us are never really gone. Not even when their bodies are. Whatever reached out to me that night wasn't a burglar or my imagination. It was her, trying to come home, trying to reach me, trying not to die alone. I was 16 when it happened. My mom, my older sister, and I lived in a small single-story house in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. It was the sort of place where nothing ever seemed to happen. Slow, predictable, and peaceful to the point that you stopped thinking anything bad could ever reach you there. Our street was narrow, lined with old trees, and most of our neighbors were retirees who knew each other by name and spent their evenings on porches with iced tea. Our house sat a little apart from the others, separated by an aging wooden fence and a yard that needed more care than we ever gave it. That day, my mom was working the late shift and wouldn't be home until much later. My sister did what she usually did. She left right after lunch to hang out with her friends and wouldn't be back until evening. So I ended up home alone. Nothing unusual about that. I actually liked the quiet. No noise, no interruptions, just me and my computer. I was in my room, playing my favorite game. I had one of the headphones slightly off my ear so I could hear what was going on around the house. I wasn't expecting anything, wasn't thinking about anything except the game, and that's when I heard it. A soft, quick sound coming from the back of the house. A click. Not loud, not sharp, just a small, unmistakable movement. It was the sound of the back door latch being pressed down. At first, I thought it was my sister. She had this habit of sneaking in quietly through the back door just to mess with me, especially when she knew I was totally absorbed in a game. I nearly turned back to the screen, already rolling my eyes, when I happened to glance toward the hallway and toward the frosted glass panel in the back door. What I saw froze me completely. Behind the glass, blurred but unmistakable, was the outline of a grown man. Not a teenager, not someone small or familiar, a broad-shouldered, tall, adult male. Standing still, positioned close to the door. Every bit of air left my lungs at once. My chair slid back without me even realizing I'd moved. My heart didn't just start pounding, it slammed against my ribs so hard it hurt. His hand pressed the latch again. Slow, controlled, testing it. Once, and then again. I knew immediately this wasn't my sister. It wasn't my mom either. She wouldn't be back for hours. And it definitely wasn't my dad. My parents had split a long time ago, and even back when they were together, he was rarely home. He traveled for work constantly, and he never used the back door. This was a stranger. A stranger trying to get into our house. My mind was running, but my body felt locked. I forced myself to crouch low and slip out of my room, keeping close to the wall. The back door wasn't far, and if I stood up fully or moved too quickly, he could have seen my shadow. I stepped as quietly as I could, avoiding the spots in the hallway where the old floorboards creaked. The latch clicked again. Soft, firm, persistent. I knew those doors wouldn't hold long if he decided to force them. They were old, the frame slightly warped, the lock temperamental. If he leaned on it hard enough or tried to break in, nothing was really stopping him. That realization shot me full of panic. I darted into my mom's room, shut the door behind me silently, and slid under the bed. It was cramped and dusty, and I had to press my face to the floor to breathe, but it felt like the only place where he wouldn't immediately look. I didn't dare shift my weight or move my hands. The house felt too quiet, too exposed. I couldn't tell if he was still at the door or already walking around outside looking for another way in. One thought kept circling through my mind over and over. What is he going to do if he finds me? My heart was hammering so loud I was sure it could be heard from outside the room. My ears rang from the pressure of trying to listen to every tiny noise. I stayed frozen under the bed, trying to calm my breathing. And then, out of nowhere, I remembered something. In my mom's bedside drawer, she kept an old VHS tape from one of my childhood birthday parties. I hadn't seen it in years, but I remembered one thing clearly. The audio on that tape was loud. Kids screaming and laughing, adults talking over each other, music in the background. Total chaos. And suddenly, in my fear-clouded brain, a single idea formed. If someone hears noise, real noise, loud noise, they'll think the house isn't empty. I don't know where I found the courage, but I slowly slid out from under the bed and reached the drawer. My hands shook so badly I could barely pull it open. I found the tape by touch alone. I didn't turn on the light. I didn't want to make any noise that wasn't necessary. I shoved the tape into the old VCR sitting under my mom's TV and pressed play. And then I pushed the volume button all the way up. Instantly, the room exploded with sound. Kids laughing and yelling, adults shouting greetings, someone clapping, someone singing. It genuinely sounded like a whole birthday party was happening right there in the living room. I froze on the floor, listening. A few seconds later, I heard it. Quick footsteps outside the window, not running full speed, but fast, urgent. Whoever was at the back door definitely hadn't expected that noise, and he wasn't sticking around to find out what it meant. The steps faded, and then came silence. A heavy, suffocating silence that felt like it lasted forever. I sat on the carpet, leaning against the bed frame, shaking uncontrollably. The tape kept playing, blasting childhood chaos into the house, but I couldn't bring myself to stand up and turn it off. I didn't even move until I heard the front door open and my mom's voice calling my name. By then, I was so shaken, I could barely talk. Mom had to sit next to me and wait until I could explain what happened. Her face went pale as I told her. She immediately called the police. The officers arrived quickly. They checked the yard, the doors, the windows. No signs of forced entry. Nothing that could prove someone had been there, aside from what I saw. But when I described the silhouette and the way he tried the door, the officers exchanged a look, One of them finally told my mom something that made her visibly tense. For the past month, someone had been prowling around our neighborhood. Quiet, careful, smart, checking homes, testing doors, slipping away before anyone could confront him. They'd been trying to catch him, but had nothing solid to go on. Maybe he wouldn't have hurt me. Maybe he really was just looking for an empty house to rob. But I was 16, alone, and terrified. And in that moment, it didn't matter what he wanted. What mattered was that he stood just a few feet away from me, separated only by a thin door I knew he could have pushed through if he tried. After that night, my mom installed new doors, extra locks, and a security system. The house stopped feeling quiet. It started feeling alert, guarded. And I changed too. Silence stopped being comforting. I couldn't stay home alone for months. And even now, years later, I still tense up whenever I hear the click of a latch in the dark. Because that sound is burned into my memory. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel.